And we're live! Hello and welcome
Yes.
to the 69th episode of Game Theory Gang. I'm Maddie Allen with ChrispyMan of HexFire.io and Tobiwan Hexobi of the Highest of Stakes documentary. Welcome.
Hey, glad to be here, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
It's been an exciting day, and because we've had a lot of news drop from the Highest of Stakes. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're excited about having a special guest tonight, Alex from Hedron. It's not here yet, but I hear he's joining soon.
He's coming. He's getting his gear set up. So I'm excited. I don't think I've ever been on a stream with Alex, but he's been a phenomenal part of our ecosystem, and I've really enjoyed our exchanges in DM and stuff. So it'll be fun to be on with him. Plus, he's actually been able to see the movie. Well, not the new version with the new ending, but was able to see the movie in a theater already. Which, other than RG3, I think I don't know of anyone else that's been able to do that. Hey, there he is.
There he is.
Hey, what's up, Alex?
Stone face, though. Hey, Alex.
Good to see you. We got a smile. There it is.
There you go.
Might want to turn your mic up a little bit.
Let me try that.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, good now?
Yeah, much better.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's our 69th episode, and so we're lucky to have you as our special guest tonight.
That's a very special number.
Yep.
It is.
No beard for Maddie.
No. I could say things, but I'm gonna be good. So Alex,
this is Game Theory Gang, and Alex has apparently already seen a version of the Highest of Stakes documentary. We had not only a new trailer drop today, which was very spicy and dramatic, but we also had 15 minutes of footage from the film. Now, I have to say, it was not leaked. That was me just saying Twitter things, and the documentary crew corrected me because they want the truth to be told. And so, yes, bad Maddie for saying that it was leaked. I changed the name of the YouTube video, but of course Twitter doesn't update its name servers or whatever. So it was not leaked, but there was 15 minutes of footage, and I ordered the clips that have been given to everybody who's hosting meetups surrounding the movie coming out on August 4th and 5th in select U.S. theaters. I tried to put the clips in an order that made sense to me, being able to show both sides and maybe not being as negative as the trailer. But I'm curious to hear if anybody else here on screen got a chance to see either the new 2.5-minute trailer or the 15 minutes of footage.
I did.
Yeah, I watched all of them.
Yep, I saw all the above. It's like I was on earlier with Corey Costa, and Maddie joined us toward the end. We were trying to watch it, and then we were having some technical difficulties, so I feel like we were a bit of a tease for those that wanted to maybe see it and then have some commentary from some people, affiliated, me being a producer, you having, been our number one box set recipient and viewer of the film in a theater. So I thought it might be cool if we actually went through the 15-minute piece that Maddie spliced together, because it was actually 15 different clips that they had sent out as the ambassador toolkit. So that was to all the premiere hosts around the country that are going to be organizing little meetups before or after the showings, trying to sell out their market, and to give them some promotional material to do so. So Maddie had the forethought to put it all together into one thing, so you don't have like a ton of little videos to do. So I think that's awesome. But whenever you guys are down for that, I think that would be fun to kind of watch the little bits and then have some commentary around it.
Yeah, that sounds
totally
great.
I have to make sure I don't add spoilers, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't disclose anything that's not on the script or on the clips. So, because since you've seen it and I've seen it, I got to be careful of like what I'm watching and what I'm referring to and what I saw when I saw the full thing.
Well,
yeah.
Full disclosure: I've seen nothing, I've heard nothing, I've signed nothing, so anything I say can't be held against me.
There you go. No worries.
I'm going to make stuff up. That's all I'm doing.
And then neither of us have seen the finished product, with the new ending. So that'll be new stuff for everybody. So I'm really excited to see the new ending, because I was saying before, it's like the ending of the original one, I felt was kind of like a cliffhanger with not enough teeth. It was just a little bit of a wharp wharp at the end, because it's like, yeah, it sucks for Mikey, and we're still in a bear. Pulse chain hasn't launched, so it was all kind of like this what if.
I want to talk about Mikey.
Yeah, you want to talk about Mikey?
Yeah.
Okay, we can talk about Mikey insofar as what we see in the clip. So maybe once we do that, then I can be more careful about what I say and don't say about Mikey.
Well, that sounds great, and we can put a game theory spin on it, and just go through here. So I've got the clips loaded. If everybody's okay with this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about money. Money is changing. To be honest, no one's quite sure anymore what money really is.
Everyone spends all their time working for money, but money on its own isn't useful. You can't eat it, you can't build a house out of it. Its only utility really is exchanging it for the things that truly have value, which are goods and services. Everything else is just accounting.
So if you go back to the beginning of civilization, there was no money. People who wanted to buy and sell things had to use barter. Money doesn't really have intrinsic value. Gold isn't particularly strong, it's not very good at conducting electricity, but it's scarce and it's beautiful. And so we've given it value as a society. Money is not what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people, when they think about money, they think of, this thing that has value. Pieces of paper, like a $20 bill, that doesn't have any value. We used to be on the gold standard, so a US dollar was redeemable for an ounce of gold. That changed long ago. Its only value is by decree. Someone said it has value.
Our made-up imaginary internet money is better than the government's made-up imaginary internet money. Both of them are only backed by the shared fiction of the humans believing that they have value.
So in 2008, I think the history of money changed forever. That was when the Bitcoin white paper was published on the internet. It is the peer-to-peer electronic cash. It is money without governments, and it is money without banks. It seems crazy to think that our economy is moving online, but our money would not be. This is the paradigm shift of our generation.
Okay, so we had Lamont Black, the crypto professor who teaches finance at, what did it say? Not
DePaul,
DePaul, that's right.
DePaul,
yeah,
DePaul University. Yep.
So what did you guys think about what he had to say? And what is money to you? What gives something value?
Well, my first thought is that he is the whitest man with that name possible. Just saying.
What?
And yeah, I would defer to Alex and Crispy on your question, Maddie.
Yeah, I think in this, I'm trying to keep it to the context of the clip. So, I think a lot of what he says is kind of validates what a lot of us believe, and a lot of things Richard said over the past, 5 years, however long it's been.
Yeah, 100%. Money's made up fiction. If you want to take it all the way to enslave the people. But regardless, right, it's the medium of exchange. Can't eat it, can't build with it. I think I heard Richard say that. Just today, maybe in one of these clips. Maybe we're going to hear that.
Yeah,
That's right.
my thoughts as well. I mean, I think he was pretty on point with, what money is. It's a consensus, an agreement that something has value. So, I mean, that even applies to the U.S. dollar. I mean, some could say that it's backed up by aircraft carriers and such, but it's ultimately a belief in a thing, right? So I think that in that
I think,
regard, he did a good job.
yeah, I don't think I realized until I was about 35 that it was all bullshit, right? And I think it was because I was so busy working, taking care of my family, and I finally went to college, right? And so when I went to college and I took that macroeconomics class and then I did the microeconomics, I was like, what is this money thing, anyways? So you mean it's all made up and we just print more? And it was for a couple of days, it was kind of disheartening. Then I got over it because I realized, well, there's not a whole lot I was going to do at the moment, right? I mean, I still had a job to do, still had to pay my bills, still had to get money, but it's an interesting thing when you come to that realization because it's kind of, well, if you let it, it shocks you.
I
If
think
you really
that.
want to go down that,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Matt.
You go.
I just think like if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, like start looking into like how much money is physically in circulation compared to how much money is like actually spent every day, and it's like there's not enough physical money to account for all the fake imaginary money banks are using on the back end and people are wire transferring. It's a really deep rabbit hole you can go into.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. I mean, all of a sudden, wash trading makes sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. You know, it's one thing to point your finger at everything else and be like, they're all wash trading. You look back, you go, wait a minute. So when you want to, you just print more. Yep. And then you wash it. Yep. Oh yeah.
The other way that we see or define that money has value has to do with its interchangeability with other things. And so when we look at the US dollar having its major liquidity pair with like oil, some people say it's backed by the forced trade agreements of the world when other countries have to transact with each other in US dollars, even though they don't share that as a common currency, that forces the liquidity bonding type of things that we see with Hart's Law. The same thing that we see in cryptocurrencies when when you offer liquidity and you put something into a decentralized exchange and you say, I don't care which side of the trade that you take. You can take, either this or that, and I'm pegging the price at this ratio. That's pretty much what determines what the value of everything is. So, the economics professor didn't say it quite like that, but that's the truth. I think it comes down to Hart's Law.
Yeah, there's definitely truth in that.
Woo-hoo.
August 4th.
Richard Hart, fraudster or not? Are you ready to look for some fraud this morning? This account
Yes.
is $10 million.
Yes.
10 million crypto dollars?
The value is in USD.
Just doesn't sound believable. I'm nosy, so I'm intrigued by other people's business. I mean, Rolexes and Ferraris and, okay. But what are you about? What are you about without those assets?
What is Richard about without those assets? And somebody's trolling me, so I'm going to hook up my mic.
I like her. I mean, obviously, you get way more of her in the movie. She's she's kind of the fraud investigator. So it's interesting to me because it's like they have two professors. One is kind of like the economics guy that's giving you the basics of what digital currency is and is not, and then you have her that's talking about maybe is this a scam? So it's interesting as the clips go on. You kind of see her pushing back against Lamont Black a bit, which I found very entertaining. Because it's like, wait a minute, it's like the fraud investigators getting persuaded that this is maybe a good investment. So I thought that was a pretty good indication of how things play out. And for those that don't know, that first person that they asked at the beginning, Richard Hart, scammer or not, or Hex scam or not, whatever the question was, that was Clay Collins, infamously of nomics.com, who is now no longer in business. So that's kind of, to me, that's kind of a little sweet justice, knowing that he was on there saying the things he said that you'll see when you see the full film. And then that he is no longer, has a beautiful home in Hawaii, though. I'll say that. And then, so that was interesting to me. And then, but I want to say more, but I'm trying to keep it in the context of the clips we're seeing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll try to say some things without saying things. But
you're in the right space for that.
Yeah, this dynamic, this little section of the movie is one of my favorite sections because it just does such a good exploration of many things that I think if you're in the community, you don't necessarily think about. Like it's a good counter. It's like a lot of good counter arguments to the things we say, and just watching that dynamic unfold between the two of them, it was just really cool.
Yeah, sure. I know you guys have a little bit more background. I only have seen the clip, so I have nothing really to say any more detail than that. But other than, yes, obviously all of us had to struggle. I think all of us probably had to struggle with the idea: is this a scam or is it not a scam? So it should be quite entertaining to hear somebody else go through it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even informative.
Do you know what I love is, I know it's supposed to be salacious, which is the trailer itself. Because, the whole idea is you want, let's say that is on the front page of Netflix at some point or another streaming service, and you're scrolling through and watching previews. You're going to want to watch that dumpster fire, right? You're going to want to watch that. That's got some Tiger King vibes going on. What? It's the first words out of this guy's mouth is, I got a big dick, and then it's all blinged out. And it's it's just so outrageous. It's you kind of want to see this guy, what he's going to do next, right? If he implodes or whatever. And, like Richard tweeted today, be aware that that's the old Richard that's no longer. And, it's now the new humble Richard. So it's, I think as you see some of the other clips and how he's presented, you kind of see that transformation in the movie as well, which I think is very important. But for a trailer standpoint, and as far as being an effective trailer, I think they nailed it. And that first part, if Maddie wants to play the trailer, when they're going through and asking the one-word answers, and just the uncomfortableness you see with people when they say, is Hex a scam? And they're scam. They're just they can't allow themselves to even imagine that it could be. But it's it's just, I don't know. Obviously I'm a little invested, literally, but to me that was just great, editing.
Well, I think the clips, the movie for sure, but the clips in particular, kind of raising this questions, is it a scam? And we've all been through this whole process where I think a lot of us come to terms that basically all of finance is kind of a scam. If Hex is a scam, it's all a scam, realistically. And yeah, I can't go too much further than that.
No, I'll carry on for a little bit in that vein. I often, in general, I just said this today with Ben Bard, if somebody's already in crypto and they've accepted crypto, then they probably don't have a leg to stand on to call Hex a scam. In fact, I know they don't, based on the information that I've seen. Is very hypocritical, because there's nothing that's been done in the Hex ecosystem that isn't already taking place in other crypto, good or bad, indifferent, whatever. But if you can get to the point, that you believe that Bitcoin's not a scam, it's kind of hypocritical if you don't apply the same rigorous tests to Hex, And the argument,
it's just time.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's literally just time. When Bitcoin came out, it was a scam. And the only reason people accept it's not a scam now, it's been around long enough that mentally people come to this conclusion, well, I guess surely it can't be a scam if it's been around this long. And it's the same thing with the US dollar, right? Like I can tell people, the reasons you think HEX is a scam is the same reason all these other things you would also believe they're scams. The only difference is time.
Fair point.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, and plus it's like, Satoshi, those coins never moving or being sold, that was a function of time as well. Because it's like, as it happened, as more time passed, people were less concerned about that ever being an issue. I'm sure there's still people that are eyeballing that. But, at this date too, it's like he's relatively diluted comparative to early on. So he would be less of a factor if those coins did, choose to do something. And, with the inflation model of HEX, it's like that same thing in the TShares and the staking, behavior of hexagons. It's like over time, the OA gets diluted as well. So I think all those things kind of play into this following a similar trajectory as Bitcoin as far as, confidence in the markets around, is it a scam? Is it not a scam? Is this a legit thing?
Is my voice silky smooth now?
You're a little low. Volume's a little low. But you can play the next portion if you like, Maddie.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
We're a sticker guy.
Nice.
I need a song. All right, cool.
Oh, I got the world's biggest diamond. I always forget that. That's funny. I don't know the world's biggest diamond. You don't. I do. Cool, huh? When we went outside to do the photo, they were really like, Richard. And I'm like, oh, that's cool,
How's it going out there, everybody? Welcome, everybody. So who here is a hexagon? Any hexagons here?
How high do you think HEX will ever come?
I look at the chart and I see that it just goes up and to the right, but it's not curving down. It's going up and to the right and then curving up as well. We are in the highest appreciating asset class in the world, and we are in the best version of all these assets. So I believe that it can do numbers that feel weird saying them.
No, but I think you've been lucky.
Let me tell you how many times I've been lucky. My first business was a car stereo store out of my front yard. Hired my friends. It was fine. My next business was search engine optimization, get people first on Google. I've been a serial entrepreneur killing it for decades. About 150 employees, done 60 million a year turnover. You name it, I've done it. And I just keep winning over and over again. I'm a serial winner.
Is Richard a serial winner?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think my favorite part about this clip is the music.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in a rap group.
Right? And then he was doing just a little bit of that code switching thing that he does too. So that all played together really well. It's like I can't say enough good about Pat and Grant and their team. I mean they're really skilled filmmakers.
Hell yeah.
I think.
All right, so this was not humble Richard.
No. I mean, obviously not where he is now, which I think is a return to his former self. It's like he always had a little bit of bravado to him, but it's like, to me, it's kind of getting back to that guy that I first found, which was Top Hat Richard. And, I first saw him on the Doug Polk podcast, and I mean, he was pretty brazen about certain things, but I mean, it was at the core of it, you could always feel that he really wanted the world to be a better place. So, that's what enticed me. And I think, along with a lot of other people, the outreach marketing period kind of wore thin for us after a while. And so I think it's going to be interesting because people that, like we were saying, Maddie, before, it's people that see that clip, it's going to maybe incentivize those people that only know Outrage Richard to want to watch this because they want to see him crash and burn. They might have.
There was a time when people didn't know if Humble Richard would ever come back again.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Me and Papa Boner had talks about that. He was freaked out, and I'm like, dude, this is an act. He's just doing it for the lulz, and it's and to get eyeballs and to keep himself in the news. Because what's the old saying? The only bad press is no press. You know, it's like he had to keep eyeballs on it.
Well,
but
and
it's
to
like,
signal the bear market. I mean, there's lots
Yeah.
of things I think that the outrage marketing served. Although, yeah, it was so. Yeah, it was. There was doubt then, like, oh, will humble Richard ever come back? Please, please.
Well, there's going to be doubters.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's going to be doubters listening to this and what I'll say. Wasn't phased by anything. I was not phased by any change that he made, any adjustment that he made. It was all according to plan, as he described verbally in public to everyone over time. All you had to do was listen to it, and you knew exactly what he was doing and why he was. And so, it's almost like mock outrage, for the people got outraged. I mean, it's just how I feel about it. Go ahead, Alex.
The outrage transition of Richard was really interesting to me, because I think at first it wasn't outrage. I think it was at first started as this. I said I was going to do this. I did it, and when it won, it outperformed everything in the last bull market. And it transitioned to get kind of to that excessive point that upset people. And I think the funny part about it is even in the early days, if you go back to his YouTube channel and look at old videos, really when he starts dressing excessively, he's sitting there the whole time saying I look like a clown. I'm doing this. He's counteracting his actions with his words to the community, from pretty much day one. And I find that whole transition interesting. And it wasn't. Do I want to say it was 100% planned? Maybe. I don't think I actually know the answer to that question. But I think it was maybe a bit of a revelation, oh, hey, I can do this at some point. And it ran its course.
Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of forgot about the origin of it, because it's it seems like it started off where he was testing the waters to see what hit. And so it was well, people like to click on things that have expensive items in them. So I'm going to buy some watches and show them off, or I'm going to buy some Louis bags. And then he just kept going hard in that direction, because he was getting the metrics that he wanted. And then from there it started to shift into this other thing where it was kind of cringy, at times for me to watch. It was just oh God, it's that's a hard one to come back from.
Well, people were happy about it at first, right? HEX was doing crazy numbers on the charts, and people were totally with it at first.
Right.
It wasn't until it continued its extremes, and then HEX started on its bear market path, that people started to be upset with it. If HEX had continued doing up and to the right constantly, people probably would have still been cool with it. I'm looking at it more from the angle of within 6 months, he doubled his Twitter followers when he started doing this. And when that kind of died off, when the community was at most against this, he extreme pivoted. And there's people who don't even believe the pivot's real.
I know, right?
It's funny.
Yeah, it was nuts. It's because during that period of time, it was funny too to see how many people were still listening to the core tenets of what he was trying to profess, and who was kind of falling into the outrage themselves and becoming Flexicans, right? And then you saw guys buying Rolexes and stuff. And then if you watched any of his streams long enough, not only would he tell you that I'm a clown, I'm doing this for the attention. This isn't. I don't really care about any of this shit. And also, what are you guys doing? It's there's benefit to me doing it. It's you doing it makes no sense. Why are you spending your money on this stuff? It's I'm not saying do as I do. I'm saying do as I say.
Yeah. I mean, and basically from the beginning, he acknowledged the fact that he bought the top of the watch market.
Right.
I'm into watches a little bit, and I know what he bought, and I know
You
a
are?
good chunk of those. Yeah, not
Nice.
on his level.
Right.
I'm not on Richard's level. But,
Okay.
There can be some good investments in watches, actually.
Yeah, there are, but not the ones Richard bought.
No.
They're all down at least 50%, and it's because they were just extravagant pieces that really are just collector's pieces that no normal person actually wants or can afford to want.
good museum displays. That's about it.
Yep.
Cool.
I was like yelling at the top of my, like standing in my chair, fuck this guy. Yeah, this guy is fucking, what? Who does this guy think he is? I was upset. You know, and so I straight up blocked him. My first hearing of Bitcoin, I was on a forum. They said, hey, if you turn on your graphics card while you're not playing games, you make about $3-4 a day. Just out of nowhere, I've got, you know, in 10 days, I got $30 in my wallet or whatever of these coins. And I'm like, what is going on here? You know, this is crazy. I was immediately hooked. So next thing I know, I've got 3 graphics cards and 2 different computers running in my room. There's something here. I wrote up a business plan. I was driven, so I didn't stop there. I found 2 friends of mine, and I was like, let's build a business together. Like, let's work out a deal. And he, very blasé in his way, was like, is $500,000 enough? And I was like, indeed it is, sir. Indeed it is.
So I'd never met Big K before. When I went to, so when I went to see this for the first time, he was there and I met him, and he's an awesome guy. He's
Did you guys hit it off right away?
Yeah, pretty much. Like he fantastic person, fantastic Mexican. We had a great time, and I very fun. Probably one of my favorite community people. He doesn't not around much like on the internet side, but it's great to hang with.
Yeah, he's good stuff. Go ahead.
He has a background of doing festivals and events, and he did a party for the first HEX meetup that we did, the first big one, and he did a great job. It was really awesome.
Yeah, he's a really kind soul. Great family man. It's like I've been on the Cabana happy hour with him a few times, and his kids have run in, and you can just tell, you know, that he's a good dad, and I don't know, he's just salt of the earth kind of people, and really funny. And I mean, it has been around it for a long time. I mean, if he was mining Bitcoin way back then and scaled up his operation to take advantage of that, it's like, you know, I mean, the guy's been doing it like in a hands-on level for a long time. So, but that was, you know, his part in the film is one of my favorites. But that gives you a taste of it for sure. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of K, right? But I made Big K. I met him out in Vegas, right, with you, Maddie, and so I hadn't been paying enough attention, right? I was kind of aloof. I was working right up until right before that first Vegas meetup, and I remember he was the first celebrity besides yourself, Maddie, that I met. We're down there. I forget what part of town we were in, and what was the name of that first place, the burger joint? Anyways, when you were doing the check-in there. Yeah, maybe it was
a Heart Attack Girl, because they have a Bitcoin machine there.
Yeah, so we were down there, and I was, somebody introduced me to him, and I was like, who's this? And it was real fanboyish. They were like, oh, that's Big K. And I was like, who's Big K? I don't know who that is, but
Kurkowski.
But I've seen him since. You know, around. I'm a big fan. You know what I like about a lot of the people, of course, in our community on this stream is just authenticity. You know, I mean, sure, we got some fakers, but that's fine. You know, but I like you can kind of tell the real stuff out there. At least I think I can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's legit. I stumbled onto stumble's the wrong word because I wasn't drinking, but everyone else sure was. But in Daytona, like I was hanging out with Maddie and over at the DeLorean, and he was, you know, holding down the fort, you know, pressing the flesh and taking pictures and telling people all about.
Oh, dude, I talked to people straight for 10 hours straight at the Daytona thing,
and it was so hot. It was so hot. I mean, that just floored me. Like his devotion to that was like, holy moly. So I'm taking a break. I got to walk around a little bit, and it's like I'm passing stuff out, talking to people, and I end up walking onto Big K's tour bus, and it's like, even as like cooked as everybody on that bus was, it's like he took time to like acknowledge me and like be nice and stuff, but it was like, it was totally like almost like a record scratch, like, you know, like the super straight guy walks into the party, it's like, you know, it's like, well, you know, had I met up with you earlier and had a few drinks, then maybe it wouldn't have been as awkward as it felt for me anyhow. But even in that, he made an effort to like make me feel welcome on the bus and like say hey and hug it out and stuff. So, but yeah, he's great, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I love his part in this film. I mean, I wish I could say more, but and like I think there were some clips that were shared previously from Highest of Stakes, so I can speak to it a little bit. But the sets and stuff they did, like from like they were like replicas of where he was mining, like in his grandmother's basement. And I mean, they did I mean, I would love to see the actual set they built, but it was just like, that's crazy how good a job they did with all that stuff. But it
is.
But yeah, cool backstory, cool addition to the whole arc of the film. Yeah.
And, you know, lots of people who are watching right now, we have a couple hundred people watching, thousands on the replay. You can get your ticket to the Highest of Stakes, but they're selling out pretty quickly. So
I heard there's some markets that are sold out already. So hopefully we'll find out about this whole holdover clause if they're going to like do additional showings or days.
Yeah,
or what.
I bet they will.
Yeah, I bet they will too.
Cool.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by that. I've been watching the ones that like local to me, and I'm like, wow, these are actually filling very quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Get your tickets.
Go ahead.
My question is very short.
So are you, sir. So are you.
If I have 10,000 hex,
Okay.
how long time take me to be rich?
The problem is you mix a cult and money, finance, and investing, and I think things get even worse. Because you're basically convincing people to put their trust in you. They start doing whatever you say, and you say, buy, 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 hold, hold, hold. And pretty soon you've got a whole community working together. But as soon as someone steps back and says, wait a second, what are we all doing here? What is this thing that we're investing in? Then people are gonna start peeling off, and suddenly the cult starts to get a little shaky. The cult leader is gonna yell louder and louder, try and amp them up more and more. But all it takes is a few people waking up where other people are gonna start following them, and suddenly the cult breaks down, and you know, those stories never end well.
Those stories never end well. With cults. Is Hex a cult? Does it end well? Bitcoin ended well. Bitcoin is up, what, 7 million% or something? 700 million%?
At its all-time high, yeah.
Mm.
Even if you're generous and only measure from a penny instead of sub-penny.
You know, I think what's funny is if you would have asked me if Hex was a cult at 50 cents, I think my answer would have been yes.
Mhm.
And now, I don't, you know, I don't know if I would say it's a cult anymore. It's like people have kind of come to terms with reality a little bit. It was a little crazy back then, and
so what is it
you
that
know,
makes something a cult for you? Like what types of behaviors?
I don't know if I would say, actually, I don't know if I would say it's a cult, but cultish, you know, just this hive mind mentality. Like this is the only way things can ever go. You know, there's much more of that before, and maybe it's why there isn't as much of that now. Maybe it's, you know, maybe we have other things, like we have Pulse, we have PulseX, we have, you know, everyone, the community's now fractured a little bit. Everyone's kind of making their bets in their own way. So in a way, maybe we've kind of grown a little bit away from the cultishness. I think that's probably a good thing, long term.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I remember meeting K4K in Vegas, and it was like in the dressing area or whatever, back in the back, like where people were getting ready for the fashion show, or after that actually. And oh, what's her name? Kaylin from the Pulse tour, Black Hexagon. So she was there. He was there. We're talking. I don't know that she got the context of what I was talking about, and then she walked away halfway through. So I clarified that with her later, because I thought that was a bad time to leave that story. But what I was equating it to, and K4K got it and laughed, but what I was equating it to, if you guys ever saw the movie Boogie Nights, and there's a scene where Roller Girl and then like the main character, and I can't think of her name right now, red hair, great actress, like the female lead in the movie, they're both doing cocaine together. And they are just so in love with everything the other person is saying. I mean, to the point where it's like Roller Girl's like, can you be my mom? Can I call you mom? Like, it's just such a crazy, intense connection, but it's all fueled by cocaine, right? So it's like, that was kind of how I saw the all-time high behavior in HEX. Like, everybody loved everybody. Like, it didn't matter. It's like, it was just like your best friend for your whole life. And it was like these crazy things that seemed like these super real connections. So in a way, I feel like I would agree with Alex. Like during that period of time, it seemed a little crazy, a little unhinged, and a little unrealistic, and a little cultish. But I think this has actually been a good thing long term for the community to be a little fractured, for people to kind of show, you know, who they are and where they are, and you know, and kind of come back to earth a little bit and have a more realistic approach to how you're treating these financial instruments, right? And you know how to properly use them. And it's not like we all just got a lottery ticket and wow, now what do we do with all this money? It's kind of forced them to look at like other avenues to, you know, build up their TShares stack, you know, things like HSIs and the auctions and things of that nature. Other ancillary plays with, you know, Maxi and other stuff that, you know, maybe make it easier for people to get in that don't want to be time locked, you know, and then to take this extra time to learn about security, you know, things like Time Pays Me and, you know, what Papa B's doing, you know, with his security talks. All those things together, I think, have actually made us a stronger community than we were at all-time highs. And it's, I think, because we've weathered that, it'll be a great foundation going forward. And if we continue onward and upward in this next bull, I think, you know, it's just a bigger, broader base and foundation for like a longer term legacy of what this thing can do. And, you know, so I'm probably more excited now than I was at all time high, if that is believable.
Same. Yeah. I think that HEX is definitely like a culture of its own within the crypto culture, which is already like really weird. And, you know, I think that all communities, when they grow, end up fracturing anyway, but that doesn't mean that you don't still have like your favorite sports team and stuff. And so you could have like a different group that you associate with amongst those fans of one thing or another. You know, in HEX, we are really obsessed with pony pictures and being able to paint your own pony picture, right? And you know, that means like you're doing your own work on the blockchain and it's not centralized and it's not about one person. And like there's all these really cool tenets we have, like not your keys, not your coins, and that kind of stuff. And so we're kind of a subculture within these other systems, and that's got its pros and cons, but here we are in all of our glory and imperfections.
Yeah, the thing that makes me know that this community is very different from the rest of crypto is I've come to the realization that basically everything else in crypto community-wise is fake. Like, it's not real. Although the people aren't real, they don't, like, I mean, there's real people there, but they aren't real. If you know what I'm saying.
That mofo is not real.
You can stay in this crypto if you want, but that motherfucker back there is not real.
Like, that lady's basically us.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much. Like this whole thing, like even right now, like we're just four dudes. I don't know where we're physically at, but like just in a house somewhere, you know, like we don't have fancy sets paid for by ICOs to tell us to go tell our people to go invest in things. We don't have that.
No Bybit link here.
Yeah, it's like we just like the stuff and we talk about it, and that's what makes it very different. And I think that's what makes a lot of people hate us.
Yes.
Well, I'll say this too. So I believe that HEX mining, aka staking, is at the center of our belief system as far as HEX goes. If there is a cult, that's the cult. And that's where the strength came from of the community and the stickiness. Because who else decides they're going to hang around with each other for 15 years? You might, you know, a great many people anyways for 15 years. You might think that it shouldn't make a difference or doesn't make a difference, but people act differently. Like they act differently when they know they're going to be here tomorrow. And so they just act a little bit differently than telling you to go screw off today. And that may, it causes reflection, it causes that stickiness, it causes a group kind of an approach to things, I think.
Cohesion.
Right. And anyways, I think that the mining is at the center of it. And so I think that we have a lot of posers. We always do. Well, all communities have posers, right? Like they were here as long as they were going to make a buck, and they were supportive as long as they were going to make a buck, quick buck. And now that the opportunity is not there, they're not as joiny, not as sticky, not as want to be like this. And so you see a lot of true colors of people come out as far as whether they ever really believed at all. Like dudes, I know you guys are on the stream with me, and I could probably get you to agree with me that mining was a good idea, and that getting 50 or 60% APY per year is really good in HEX, because you have a longer time frame, and you're going to have 3 times as much when the next cycle top hits, and you didn't have to pay for it. It's almost like free money, and yet 80% of the people we're talking to can be like, bullshit, you should have held that crap liquid and sold it at the top. And so and maybe that's right. Maybe that's okay. But for the center of our cult, it's not okay, right? I mean, you got to really be looking for that long-term kind of belief system. HEX is going to work out. It's crazy.
What you're saying is so important, because that is what makes HEX different than every other cryptocurrency. Is every other cryptocurrency doesn't have 75% of the user-controlled supply time locked for 6.6 years on average. They don't have that. And so when our people stick around, and when we have more people showing their faces and starting YouTube channels than Bitcoin, and yet we're not a household name yet, 5% of the population doesn't own HEX yet, we still get this wild volatility that was there in Bitcoin that, that's unfortunate. But what you're saying is right on, that forms the center of our culture, is the time locking. And shout out to Casey for the $55, 55 cent super chat. He said, I'm in a cult and I love it.
Nice.
And, another thing that I'll observe, and then we'll move on to the next clip, is like, when I made this protocol Time Pays Me, the thing that I was like admiring the most about HEX came down to being able to send money to your future self, and how that's a form of creating a truth engine. And I know that when I represent HEX, like, I'm truthful in my own actions because I'm practicing what I preach, and because I've already basically decided how long I'm going to hold this thing. And it's going to be continuous drip for me for 55 years, or sorry, in HEX it's for 15 years. And even what Alex made with Hedron, having a drip component to it, I would say also like inspired me to see that as something very valuable. In HEX, we would call that like a continuous staking ladder. In Time Pays Me, it's a drip. In Hedron, it's this kind of a drip sort of thing. I don't know if you call it that, but it's basically something that pays you every so often based on time served. So very cool.
I concur.
It says scam.
What are they saying?
Is HEX a scam?
Richard explained it a lot of times on stream why it isn't a scam or a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid or something like that.
So you're saying Richard told me that the thing he made isn't a scam, therefore it's not a scam?
Is HEX a scam?
Scam.
That's a ridiculous idea.
It's one of those things, one of those words that's difficult to shake off.
No, this is definitely not a scam.
This is the closest thing that you could call a Ponzi scheme.
So go show me the person that's been scammed.
All promises are met. Why it's scam?
One article entitled "Richard Hart's HEX token is a brilliant scam."
There's got to be something deep down on why of why you're saying this.
Sorry, Richard, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I don't like the way he acts. He richer and has more bigger dick than me. Not fair.
He's just not a scam artist.
These are the people that call Bitcoin a scam when Bitcoin was 10 cents. So you're only going to miss out.
You've conned people into taking a worthless currency that you create for nothing.
The voice of Peter Schiff.
Yeah.
Recent Bitcoiner.
Yep. Man,
although he vowed to
editing
never
on
own
that,
Bitcoin.
Dude, the editing on that is just perfect. I mean, like, again, kudos to Patrick and Grant for the way that they edited that together, because it's like it was palpable, like the discomfort in people addressing that question. Yeah.
What's up with that? Like, did they threaten those Hexicans before they asked that question, or what?
Well, no, I think there's a component of belief in it, right? Especially early on like that. And it's, I'm not sure exactly when those segments were filmed. It's like, I don't know if that was after the all-time high or...
Was it at the... They
it.
did a bunch of filming at the HEX conference, and they did a bunch of stuff in Vegas before that.
Yeah, yeah, I was supposed to get interviewed for that, actually, and then I had to cancel because I got COVID. So, but yeah, it's like they did a lot of filming there. So I think it's just one of those deals where it's like there's a lot of belief involved and confidence in what you've invested in. So, like, to even imagine that you possibly could have fallen victim to a scam, and maybe at a level that's not going to be a comfortable loss for you, is a hard one to imagine, right? So, I mean, you could just kind of feel that in those people when they're put on the spot to just directly answer that question.
So what do you guys think?
Go
ahead.
I think my favorite part about this little segment of the movie is, no spoilers on all the people that are showcased. Some of them we've seen already, but how many of them are still around? How many of them survived the crash? The entire crypto bull market transitioning to bear. How many of them still exist?
It's a lot or it's a little.
It's a lot less than who have words to say during this part of the movie. Like they have some very strong words that probably can't be backed up anymore. That's probably what I'm going to say.
Yep. Doss Baum was one of those guys. He was in the suit jacket. It's like I didn't realize it was him at first, and I'm like, oh wait, that's Doss Baum.
Yeah.
So he's still around, but
a
but
couple
yeah,
are
it's I'm sure that. Yep. No, go ahead.
I'm just like, a lot of. It's funny to me, the amount of people who have had negative things to say about HEX, not just in this movie, but just in general, that literally just don't exist anymore.
Got it.
And yeah, it's just it's an interesting dynamic.
Johnny's not dead. He's still here.
He's
in the comments.
Johnny's around. That's good.
Johnny will never die.
No.
Better not.
He's too mean to die.
And then, well, there's channels such as Cultivate Crypto that had originally been in clips of HEX Rewind, 2020 and stuff, saying Richard Hart's, somebody he was on screen with was saying Richard Hart's a scammer. Don't buy HEX. And now he loves HEX. Him and Dollar Cost Crypto are two of the biggest onboarders that we've ever had in the ecosystem. And they had me on their show not too long ago, and it was all about Pulse Chain. It was all about HEX. So some of the people who didn't believe, they ended up doing their own research and changing their minds.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, Matty, right? I mean, if somebody actually looks into it, it's my belief that it is a better Bitcoin, to coin that phrase, right? It's better. It's a better crypto. Is it fraught with risk? Goddamn right it is, right? I mean, people could sell everything out, get lots of volatility, but in terms of crypto, it's there. It's real. I mean, it's there. So, yeah, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's kind of how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Hex has volatility. Does that make it a scam? No. Just like Bitcoin's early days didn't have the most liquidity or the amount that it has now. So a lot of people who say Hex is a scam, they're pointing one finger forward and they have three pointing back at themselves. It's a case of them being the scammers, like box mining, like, I mean, even bigger channels that don't need to be named. I mean, they criticized Richard because he was talking bad about Bitcoin, or because he was stealing part of their audience, not because he was wrong, or not because he was a scammer. And that's the biggest takeaway. Now, if you start talking about a Ponzi, even the crypto professor in here, he says, well, I know Hex is not a Ponzi, but it sounds like one, right? And so, so when people hear that, if there's like the right music playing in the background, they're thinking to themselves, oh, is it a Ponzi? Even though the guy literally just said it wasn't. So good editing there.
The soundtrack sells, like, on all these clips, the soundtrack sells everything so well.
Totally. And if you put these in a different order, they also tell a different story. I was playing around with the ordering too. They didn't come in any particular order. They were just alphabetized. So here we go. Here's the next clip.
I want my kids to be able to do whatever they want in life. And so many people get caught up in the rat race. I want to do whatever I can to preemptively steer them away from that.
If he calls, you can talk to him about life, his wife, his kids, whatever. I don't care. But we're not doing this. Like, we are not getting into this. I'm pretty sure I laughed, because I'd heard my kids even talk about Bitcoin.
Do you know how your air conditioner works? Like, it gives you cold air. Like, we don't necessarily know how something works. I don't know how it all works either, but I know that it will work.
People are buying computer money with their real money and thinking that they're going to get rich someday. What a joke.
I put it all in. I went...
Like, all what?
All of our house money. Most of it. I did like 100,000.
Bad timing, Mikey.
Okay, so I want to talk about this because first of all, really good drama. The wife doesn't react, but the daughter does, and the wife's face is just blank because she's so shocked. I know on Twitter what was it? It was something ridiculous, like 700,000 impressions or views on Travon's post of this. Something I've never seen this number before. I don't remember what it was. It was some crazy amount where he he was posting oh, this guy's $100,000 is now worth only 2,500. First of all, I heard a rumor that this guy sacrificed for Pulse. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done the blockchain analysis on it, okay? But let's just do a thought experiment. And let's say, what would happen if somebody put $100,000 into Hex when it was 25 cents, then they sacrificed that for Pulse Chain? Well, Pulse Chain so first of all, the price that they got it's a certain number of sacrifice points, and then they got airdropped a certain number of Pulse tokens. Those Pulse coins went up 250% in the first few days of the network. And so somebody who was in really, deep financial trouble, if they, the question is, could this person even have sold and been up on his initial investment? And I would say it's possible. It actually is possible if you look at the rates that people sacrificed for Pulse for, what the dollar value was of Hex back then. Even if he had bought it at 25 cents and the price had dropped, or it had gone up, either way, I don't think it dropped so much after the sacrifices started. So anyway, like the point of the story is I don't really know what his crypto is worth, but it's not so clear that he's down 99%.
Well, that and like,
yeah,
I don't know enough about his actual story. I spoke with a couple people about it, but that's about it. So I'm not very connected to it. But I think one of the interesting things about the whole pulse sacrifice thing is like, if you sacrifice the pulse chain, you kind of skip the bear market. You know, if you put in hex at whatever it was when you sacrificed, you basically got that value out when pulse launched, and it's still there now, even pretty close to it.
100%, baby. 100%. Not only did you skip that, you got a copy if you're an X, right?
And that amount of economic energy could not have even left Hex at the time without crashing the price to nothing, you know, almost to probably almost to zero, because there was what, $32 million of liquidity even at the peak of the bull, or well, even at the peak of Hex.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure when he bought. It's like I haven't done the analysis on it either. And you know, I've heard rumors too that he sacrificed, but I don't know if it was for Pulse or Pulse X.
Yeah,
I am excited to see the new ending to the movie, because I'm sure that will be part of it. Like, especially if he did, you know, how that turned out for him, or even if he didn't and he just got his PHEX or his Hex on Pulse chain copy, and how that's, you know, helping out the situation. But yeah, it's like that was a bit unanswered in the original cut, but now that they're adding on all this pulse,
or if he started farming P Pepe and like actually bought 20 houses or something.
Who knows, man? Well, I mean, we'll find out together, you know, when we see the movie.
Yeah,
but
cool.
But yeah, it's like but it is funny too. I noticed, like with Trayvon and some other people, how they've kind of cherry picked out of these 14 clips, like which ones they want to share, which I think is almost as telling as whatever the clip is saying. You know, because there's definitely guys that are leaning into the FUD factor, and then there are those that are leaning into like the, you know, the Moon Boy factor, as far as like which ones they show. So I think it's good to watch all of them so you can get a better feel, and then ultimately you want to go see the movie, which I need to throw in here. If you haven't got your tickets yet, I would highly recommend that you go to Regal Cinemas and online and check your local theater. There's a tweet about it. I can drop a link in the chat from Highest of Stakes that shows you the cities that it's screening in. You can actually click on those cities and it'll take you right to Regal Cinema's website, so you can see if there's tickets still available. But yeah,
when you go to highestofstakes.com/screenings, and you click on your city, it's going to pop up the Regal website, and then you actually have to pick the date, and then it'll show you the highest of stakes. So you're going to put in the date of August 4th, and then it'll show you the 7:00 screening in your closest theater.
Yep, and then August 5th as well, in case the 4th is sold out.
I don't think they have those tickets out yet.
They do. They do, 4th and 5th. You have to choose the calendar. Like, you choose the calendar and then choose that date, and then you can see that. So at least for my local Regal Cinema, because I got some tickets for family and friends for Saturday the 5th. So they certainly charged my credit card. So, so I know I know they're available. Yeah.
Yeah, get your tickets now. And if you want to come to Austin, Texas for the in-person part of the second annual Pulse Chain Conference, then you can come on out. You can get a ticket at plsaustin.com. And I'm hooking people up with theater tickets for free. If you do, it's only $50 to get a 2-day conference from 9 to 5. So that's gonna be pretty sweet.
Getting a $15 movie ticket for free that could quite likely be sold out anyhow. So it's seems like a heck of a bargain. So
I'm not sure what this question about expectations is. I don't think we have expectations, but thanks for the super chat. And I don't know if the highest of stakes does well. I would think I mean, if it does really, really well, then who knows? Maybe it would go on Netflix and maybe it would teach a lot of people about real crypto. That'd be cool.
Yep. Yeah, nothing is guaranteed, but more eyeballs is definitely better, right? So even if it's, 1 out of 100 people that see it, that, decide it's worth taking a flyer on, learning about it and investing, that's going to be exponential gains in my estimation. Depending on how many eyeballs we get on it. So that's the goal, and these are steps toward it. So, yep.
Cool. Moving on, guys.
Next clip.
I mean, I did like 100,000.
Yeah, she wasn't having it.
You've been studying the activities of the HEX on the blockchain, right? Why wouldn't you invest in it?
All right, so I've told you from the day one, like, the main thing I don't like about it is it does nothing.
Well, I have to take that back. Yes, it does do something. It makes people money.
I don't think that HEX is a Ponzi scheme, but Ponzi schemes also make people money until they don't. I just don't see the value. Like, I am a finance professional. What I look for is value. What is the value?
Doesn't money bring you value? You mean to tell me that if I asked you, Lamont, can I borrow $150? And you said, sure, Kelly, I'll give you $150. And I bought HEX with it, and then told you in 2 years, that $150 loan, I turned it into $40,000 and I'm giving it to you. Would you say to me, Kelly, I'm principled, I'm a finance professional, I'm not going to take the money? Is that what you would say to me?
I'm not sure I would turn that down.
Okay.
I love how she's the scam investigator, and then you can tell she's starting to lean right toward wait a minute, this, if it's not a scam, maybe I want to invest myself. I mean, it doesn't quite go that far in the clip, but it's I really enjoyed that, the way that she was pushing back on that.
I could tell she spent some time with Kareem.
Yeah, right. She'd been hyped up.
Yeah.
What I think is funny about this is it really highlights a real world phenomenon. Like, the reason a lot of people that are in that guy's position that don't like things like HEX is because it doesn't do anything. It only exists to appreciate in value theoretically. That's its only purpose. Versus you could argue, well, maybe Bitcoin's purpose is digital cash. I disagree with that these days, but that maybe that was its original goal. And Ethereum's kind of like the everywhere computer, right? They have these ancillary purposes other than their value, and HEX kind of doesn't. But if you look at basically any industry in the world, things that people like him would get super excited about are more academic in nature. And those academics are not the people who take those technologies and actually make massive gains or profits with them. It's companies that say, oh, wow, we can take this and market it and build it into this other thing. And those are the people that make outsized returns on those kinds of discoveries or scientific breakthroughs. So I think that's a really interesting dynamic that's not often considered, because we kind of all live side by side in this digital world. There's not big separation. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about.
Absolutely.
So this is something called the HEX audit. It just goes into what's happening with the OA. What's really interesting is when you dig into the OA, I think it exposed a lot of things that should be known about HEX, but I don't think most Hexicans wanted people to know about HEX.
Richard is an interesting guy. The first time I saw him, he was wearing a top hat.
Tell you a little something about money.
You know, I kind of think of Richard Hart as like the Donald Trump of crypto. You can't look away.
One word.
One word. Okay, here we go. Ready? In one word.
In one word.
Who is Richard Hart?
Just one word. God.
Messiah. Legendary.
Hero? Master.
The benevolent king.
I don't want to say God because everyone's going to say God.
Winner.
Genius. Savior.
Whether you like him or you don't, he is genuine.
$250,000. Hate me. I'm farther than you'll ever be in your whole life. $250,000.
Ouch.
Again, genius filmmaking. The juxtaposition of all these things, it's like just super well done.
See, like you can say that. Normal people watching that are going to have really mixed feelings about that particular clip. And you can say it, and I can say it about how, like,
right,
we know how that plays out and how it's tied together. Right. And it's quite nice. But there are people in the community right now raging on Twitter.
Oh, I'm
which
sure.
Which is what they
no
wanted
doubt.
to do. Like that was the intent
Yeah.
of that clip for sure.
Yep.
Look right here. No watch. No watch. I got nothing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, you know. It's like you gotta get them motivated to get out to see the movie, right? So it's like I think that's where it was such a genius way to put that together, to make it like something like I gotta go see that, right? So you know, hopefully that'll have the effect. And it's like, you know, Alex, you and I know, like if you see the whole movie, then you come away from it with a very different feeling, I think, than what the trailer would kind of lead you to feel initially. So
yeah.
I mean, not
it's
that
very
it's a
balanced.
puff piece, you know. Yeah, it's balanced. Good
Well,
point.
people who watch this, people are going to watch this documentary. You probably split it up in more groups than this, but there's going to be 3 groups: those that hate it, those that love it, and those undecided. And you know, the hope is the ones that love it will come check things out, and then maybe some of the ones undecided will come check it out too. Yep. And maybe come save themselves in that sort of way. Maybe they'll fall into Pulse, you know. Maybe they'll get involved in the community some other way. I don't know.
Yeah, learn about DeFi. Yeah.
The math on all this stuff is so incredibly insane at this point that, you know, so yes, I understand that a lot of people don't have $500 in the bank, right? But they also spend a lot of money. That's why. But with a very modest $500, you know, kind of risk, thought out plan kind of investment in crypto, like in kind of a general comment, you can really make some outsized gains off of $500. Now, is that going to take care of you the rest of your life? Maybe not. But certainly you can create some sort of life-changing money, which in my head is, you know, 20 grand's life-changing, right? Not a hard stretch to think $500 can turn into 20 grand in the right asset. And so if people get a chance to do the right research and look into something, and they look into HEX, and I happen to think is a winner, or Pulse, or even Pulse X, you know, and go in with whatever they're comfortable with, not $500, right? And they have like a huge upside opportunity, L1. You know, I mean, it's just insane right now why someone wouldn't look. But I do think we have to account for like a good portion of those people are going to hate it, but watch it anyways, but hate it. You know,
I will be surprised if people hate it. I mean, there are going to be people. I guess there's a certain class of people that will hate it just because it's Richard. I'm sure that exists, but I actually feel that those people are a much more significant minority these days than used to be. And you know, like they can still hate HEX and hate Pulse and all that kind of stuff, but the people who hate Richard simply because he's Richard, I think, is a massively smaller demographic than it once used to be. And I fail to see how anyone could watch this. You know, granted, I don't know what the ending is now because I know it's been kind of updated. But even that considered, like you're not gonna walk away from this and like be like massively change your view sets. It's really gonna like just make you think. It has it's very balanced. I wish I could say more, but I can't imagine people hating it and thinking it's bad because it's not bad. It's great.
Yeah, I trust you. And then when I was talking about, people liking or hating, I was thinking more about our assets, But yeah, I get you. I think there's I think there's a haters viewing party. I think I saw that posted somewhere. Right?
Yeah, you know what? I love that because I think that they'll be challenged. I mean, I really feel like there's going to be some people that this movie might turn around. And as Alex said, it's like, the loathing of Richard is not what it once was. It's like, I mean, he's done what he said, right? It's like, I mean, I famously said recently, when we were at all-time lows for HEX, it's like me and a lot of other people, it's like part of that reason that we hit the all-time lows that we scaled back our buying, or some stopped buying altogether because it got a little scary. Well, at that point, it's like he hadn't ever done his own crypto before. He was unproven. So as much as we liked the tokenomics and liked the game theory and liked all the other stuff and believed in it, even I went from, an ETH a day down to like a 10th of an ETH or a 20th of an ETH on the all-time low day. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, it's like seriously at $15, Toby, you couldn't have afforded more than $15 on the lowest point ever in HEX. And, but now it's like he did it, and that coin did do a 10,000x. And it's like, have we retraced big? Yeah, but it's still way up from launch. And, and if you've been staking that time, then you're doing better still. And then if you sacrifice for Pulse, you're doing better still. And, and now, Pulse was this thing, this carrot that was dangled out there. And I mean, how many people up until just a few months ago were saying that was never coming out, right? It came out and it's working. And it's like, everything as is expected. And, it's just a matter of, as powerful as Richard is and as much insight as he has, he can't move the market by himself. So he is at the mercy of these cycles like everyone else is. So it's like, we're all biding our time, including him. It's like, I'm sure if anybody doesn't like red candles, Richard's at the top of the list of people that does not like red candles on his projects, right? So but there's only so much you can do. And people even complaining about him not streaming and not being more visible during this. It's like, if you look back at the history of HEX, he was streaming all the time, like all the way up into including the all-time low day. And, if I was him, I'd look back and see, okay, what kind of dividends did that pay? Plus he's got other stuff. He's got bigger fish to fry. He's got other things to be focused on right now. So is he really getting the most bang for his buck to be out here streaming when he's stuck waiting like the rest of us are for this bear market to resolve and become more definitively a bull? So yeah, that's kind of my take on that.
But GPTC discount is closing.
Oh, I saw your tweet. Yeah. Yep. That was bullish right there for sure.
It's a big deal.
Sentiment is shifting. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. Maddie, you want to go to the next clip, or you got some technical difficulties?
Money is not what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people, when they think about money, they think of, oh, this thing that has value. Pieces of paper, like a $20 bill, that doesn't have any value. To be honest, no one's quite sure anymore what money really is. So HEX, they like to say it's the first certificate of deposit built on a blockchain.
Yeah. That seems like a big deal, right?
That's right.
So that
you go to their website, you read that, and you're like, again, that sounds compelling. I mean, investors I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, I heard about HEX, like we're not gonna touch that. And sometimes it's not the due diligence, it's not the research, it's just the optics and perception.
HEX? In one sentence, what is HEX?
The best crypto asset in the world.
Cryptocurrency. Put it away for a period of time and it basically multiplies.
So instead of offering the 2% you get when you put your money into a savings account, with HEX you can get APY of up to 40%.
The longer you stake, you lock in your coins, the more interest you earn.
Which pays the most incredible rate of interest I've ever come across. Around about 40% APY.
You can just stake your HEX and enjoy the gains.
HEX is freedom.
There's no other word for it.
This is the best potential in the entire world. If you get this right, you never have to work again a day in your life. If you get it wrong, you lose everything.
Okay, next card.
I don't know if I have a ton to add to
that. Right? Yeah, it's like, I mean, that's the thing it reminds me of is like one of the few times, because Richard's very reluctant to give kudos. So if you ever get any kudos from Richard, it's like, write it on the calendar, because it's like he is very, very guarded with his praise. But like the one time, like on stream, that I actually got some praise from Richard is like we were talking about elevator pitches and stuff, and I told him like something that I got really good response from was the fact that, if you do the math at an average return of 38-40%, HEX is a hedge to the downside, because literally it could go down 20% a year forever and you would almost break even, right? Just be almost dead nuts even. And then on the flip side, if you're getting 40% more of something and it's going up, then it's just amplifying your gains. So, because that's always the question that I get immediately once I talk to people about the yield is like, well, what about the price? If the price goes to shit. And it's like, it's like, depending on when you got in, it's like, you could be considerably underwater at this point. However, if you've been staked this whole time and then we get back up to, 30-40% or 30-40 cents, even collectively between the two hexes, if you got your copy, then, you are doing extraordinarily well. And it's like, and it's basically like dollar cost averaging without putting any more financial energy into it, because you've got more hex during this period of time. So, all those things I think are, accurate and on point with what these guys are saying in their brief descriptions of what HEX is. But the monkey we got to get off our back is those charts looking pretty terrible over the last 2 years.
I don't think I could go on for hours about this particular concept that I have, but I believe pretty strongly in this like concept of financial entropy, and a lot of it's evidence just in staking. But you can watch the larger wallets in HEX disappear very, very quickly, especially in this market. And like you can watch 555s just disappear. Like I don't know why some of those people end up, because they literally come out with nothing on quite a few of them.
Right.
But that does happen, and I question how many 15-year stakes actually exist in the 15-year time. Like I know a lot of people look at that chart of future supply and they're like, oh my God, it's so big. And I question how it will, I think it will always be big, but it will always move far away. Like I fail to think that many of the people who have 15-year stakes will actually serve them to completion.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I could see, because 15 years is a long time. And depending on, there's all kinds of things. Technology moves so fast nowadays. But the incentive with those in-stake penalties being so severe, I think the real telling thing will be 2026, 2027. When we're at that halfway point from people that originally did 15-year stakes. And they're at that point where they can, at least get all their principal and some interest back and not suffer catastrophic penalties. I think that's going to be telling. The thing that I think is interesting about emergency in-staking, is how many people don't understand that you do not get your big payday bonus unless you fulfill your entire time frame. Like you don't get a proportion of that based on your length served. So I know some people have had some rude awakenings on that, just ending something just a few days early. They don't get the big payday portion.
Yeah, they don't understand that part. And they also don't. And on the other end, a lot of people are afraid of emergency staking because they overestimate what the penalties will be too.
Well, and I think the crazy thing to me is if you have this mindset of, okay, you have a 15-year stake. Let's say it's got a big payday bonus, right? Because a lot of them do. You get to the halfway point, maybe you can get some principal back. People view that when you hit a halfway point, they say, oh, I can get my principal back when they get out. They view that as like a net zero. Like I didn't lose, I didn't win. But if you look at what you actually gave up on the yield side, especially something that's been going that long, it's like insane. It's an insane amount that you're actually giving up.
Well, there's a lost opportunity cost for all that time, right? And you can't go back and redo, so it's gone once it's done. And I think Toby, with respect, you're probably wrong about 27, 28 because, and I'll give you my reason why. I think that obviously 29, right? Big year, big time frame, 29, 30. But when we first all came in, you know, the beginning of our adventure, right? It's 2019, and so many of us said we're not doing 15 years. You know, 10's enough. That gets me the max, right? Well, that gets you to 2029, 2030. Half the time is 2024, 2025, and so I think this bull run is going to be off the hook, man, off the hook this cycle because you know, people are going to have to decide what they want to do, you know, and how far they want to take this and how long they want to stick with it. And, you know, so it's going to be quite interesting because you can have some pretty big stakes coming up with potentially some nice price action. And, you know, let's just make up a number and say Hex is at $1. Well, somebody's looking at a stake that's got 5 more years and they can end it and potentially cash out $1 million. Will they do it? Don't know.
Yep.
Don't know. But
well, and
they do it. They could. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you know, what I was looking at is like 2019 adds 7.5 years. So you're like 2026, 2027. So that's where I was thinking like the halfway point for those that may have done 15-year stakes. But to your point, it's like, you know, I mean, this is already public knowledge because I've shared it, is like, you know, I had a really large stake of mine end just before the all-time high. So I had 20 million Hex liquid at all-time high. And I realized I didn't need the money and the yield was too good to turn down. Plus, we had the carrot dangle of Pulse Chain launching any moment, and I wanted my copies. And I had a gap in my ladder out 2026, 2027, I can't remember. So I threw it down the road and staked it. You know, in hindsight,
That's baller.
You know, knowing what I know now,
it's hard. It's hardcore,
like,
man.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
tell me
dude.
about it. I think about it maybe more often than I care to admit. But it's like, you know, looking back now, it's like knowing what I knew then. If that's all I knew, then I would have done the same thing because I didn't need the money. And I've already made over 50% on that since 2021 in yield. And
what's
like
up.
what the end yield, and it'll be like I think it's like 3.5 times at the current rates of what I staked is how many Hex that'll be worth when it comes due. So I think that, you know, the deal is it's kind of like a bird in the hand or two in the bush, right? It's like you've got that, and that's I think the only time that it would ever even be a consideration to do an early end stake is like you're saying, Crispy, if there's some crazy price appreciation and you've got this stake and it's like the end stake penalty is not going to mop you and you're going to get your principal back, you've hit the 50% mark at least. It's like I can see where people would consider that because it's like, especially if they've lived through this kind of a bear and like, man, are we going to get up again? Are we going to do another 95% drawdown? Do I want to live through that just because of this two in the bush? You know, I've got so much more yield that I could have if I just let it cook for another 4 or 5 years. You know, that's going to be a big question for people. People doing it at this point, especially end staking and nuking pretty much the entire thing. I just don't get it. I just don't know if those are hacks. I don't know if those are people that just have no clue. If they're rage quitting, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like why people would EDS.
Well, we had people doing that while we were on stream. 7 million came in, right?
I saw
I mean,
that.
To me, it makes perfect sense. Like, I think you have a category of people that got into Hex early. They largely staked it all. It went up, did crazy stuff. Now it's gone down and done crazy stuff, right? And now, anytime there is any pump at all, they're like, this is it. I have to get out or else it's going to zero. Like, that is their honest belief. And they don't care about the penalty. And they don't care what they're what they're giving up because they think they're gaining by just being ahead of, you know, some inevitable downturn. You know, my personal opinion is the downturn's already happened, you know, like, but, you know, I do think there are people sitting on fairly large stakes, but very liquid bags that will take anything they can get at this point because they're fearful. And that's, you know, it's part of FUD.
Yeah, and you know what we're describing is even more FUD and more volatility coming up, because you know it was bad enough we're gonna have this huge liquidity event in 2020 now 29. Now we're talking about, hey guys, it also might be in 27, and oh by the way, it might be in 25, and it might be in 24, and so if any of that really affects the price or whatnot, then you have stymied. You know, potential X's, right? And but if you go all the way back to the beginning in the first question about being a cult, or one of the first questions, if you were following the cult-like approach, you would have had Hex, you would have laddered it, you would have been planning to scrape the interest and restake, you would have gotten copies. In that process, you would have gone into Pulse and possibly PulseX, and life is looking pretty good. And yet, still people say, no, this is a bad idea, get away. So.
Well, and this kind of like goes back to my thought on financial entropy. It's like, I don't think those high liquidity events either they will happen, but I don't think they're going to happen. And it's like, you know, oh, 2029 happens, everyone EES is 50%. I think most of those guys don't even make it to 2029.
Yeah, the front row.
Yeah, I think it spreads itself out, because at any point, if Hex pumps enough, that they will just EES. They will just be like, okay, you know, I'm out. The very, very few, I think, will actually make it to the end of any of their long-term stakes, because they either price depreciation will hit a point that they're willing to take the hit on yield, or it breaks them even, and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm great, I'm good, I'm even again. I don't think I think there will be a always this gigantic like fear mongering of the future supply, but the future supply will constantly be kicked down the road.
Yeah, and then like some of the guys in chat are saying, because I'm a minor, not under 18, Maddie, but a minor of Hex, I have lots of TShares, right? Maybe I'm not in the 10,000. I'm not a Toby. There you go.
Hey,
I'm not
nice.
a Toby. My pickaxe is more like Clawfinger, right? But you know, I'm gonna make out on that, right? Because you know, whenever these emergency stakes happen, my yield goes up. You know.
Yep. Well, and you got to consider too. It's like some of these guys that are doing those in stakes, and the people that, you know, Alex is speculating about, you know, not making it to the end of those, especially if they got in early, and then they've got copies, and then maybe they did Pulse too. It's like there's lots of those people that have big bags that are well into profit at these prices. I mean, they're well into profit. So yeah, does it suck that the guy that sold $1 million worth, that was $20 million worth, $50 million, whatever it was at all-time highs? Yeah, but he might have put in 20 grand, you know, and $1 million is $1 million off a $20,000 investment, or whatever he put in, and you know, so you know, they're going to be pragmatic about it. It's like, I don't think there's any doubt that will occur, you know.
Sure. Well, one of the
biggest, having endured the volatility, because they don't want to endure it again, or think it's going to go even lower still. And it's like, you know, yeah, it's like I'm up or I'm break even and I'm out, man. This is just, it's too much.
Well, that and there's it's that, and there's more things to sell your Hex into, right? Like for Pulse Chain, you could sell it to USDC, like that's what you did. Now you can sell it to Pulse, PulseX, any of these other things that are going to invariably come out over time. And what you just see is people with very large bags all of a sudden don't have very large bags anymore. And there's no one left to dump the price, because they've spread out their financial energy throughout a much larger system, which is easier to pump in the end.
Right. Yep. Yeah,
Sounds
that's
a lot like Hex.
Well, I mean, that's why I've been saying for a while that I think Hex is the sleeper in all this. It's like, you know, because of these things that Alex is alluding to, and, you know, the stuff we're kind of touching on, is that, you know, with there being that dilution across multiple projects and people capitulating as well, and then we're on the cusp of, you know, a possible virality and more people getting eyeballs on it. You know, my thinking is if just a fraction of the people that become aware of Pulse Chain learn about, you know, what I consider the greatest store of value ever created, how does not a portion of those gains filter back into Hex, right? Because it's like, you know, you don't want all of your stuff risk on And if you want a store of value, you know, that's going to do good returns and be relatively stable and have like a code that's, you know, been working perfectly since its inception, you know, it just makes sense to me that some of that would go. I mean, like, you know, if I make crazy gains on Pulse and Pulse X and, you know, the stuff I sacrificed for, it's like, what am I going to do? Like put it in fiat and watch inflation eat it away? And, you know, or am I going to maybe whittle some of that away into my staking ladder and fill some gaps, right?
Yeah. Well, there's one really interesting thing that I'm seeing so far with Time Pays Me, right? Which is my product where people can time lock any token, whether it's Pulse or PulseX. You could take a wrapped hex, or you could take a tokenized hex stake, like a Deci or a Maxi, and you can time lock it anywhere in between essentially like a week and 55 years. And the entropy that Alex is talking about, I would think, you know, that starts to behave a little bit differently when you can't emergency end stake. And so I'll be really curious to see how Time Pays Me, how it works over time and what effects it has on people's behavior and like the entropy of the system, because the default setting is for it to drip back to you over time. So it's kind of like having a continuous staking ladder, which I think, you know, we would all agree, no matter what time point you started in Hex, dollar cost averaging in or dollar cost averaging out is usually a pretty wise move. And so having a continuous staking ladder is like dollar cost averaging out of something over time. What do you think, Alex, about the I could reduce my own entropy. I could save myself from by dripping an asset that I believe in back to myself, even if it's, let's say, over a year. You know, let's not take the example of 55 years, but something much more, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe we do want to talk about 15 years.
Yeah, I think anything that takes something and prevents it from moving for a period of time, it's like hitting the brakes on entropy, only for the people that are part of it, you know. But it's so it's like I don't think it does two things. Like number one, it just takes energy away, right? It's gone for now. Staking kind of, or mining Hex kind of does the same thing, but like what you see, if you think of coins like you think of energy, like USDC, for example, or stables is like the input energy, and all these coins are the output energy. And if all the coins get like super dispersed over time, it takes less USDC to have a big effect on like the energy state of the entire system. So you exacerbate it temporarily by locking a bunch of it up. However it's done, doesn't really matter. So anything that locks something for some period of time, as long as people use it, I think it's probably beneficial.
As long as you choose the right thing, those people locking P Pepe for 55 years, they're the ones with the balls of steel.
Yeah, I agree there.
They're the loon birds. We're just the we're just the hexagons, you know.
Right.
Cool. And so yeah, it'll be curious to see like how that plays out. More on that in the future.
A lot of us are panicking. A lot of the guys that I worked out there hard with are sitting in a place and they're uneasy and they don't know what they're gonna do, and their 401ks look like 104ks. Okay, let's see what we got here. Like Christmas, huh? Yeah. Trichome hat. That's where we're at. What's gonna fix that? People should be learning about what cryptocurrencies can do for money. Because if you fix the money, you fix the world. So today I look at crypto as being the modern day equivalent to pirating because we're about to start taking it back from the banks. Ahoy, crypto pirates! I am the Captain RG3. Look at this. Woo!
So if you zoom in on that clip of RG3 where he's like on YouTube, somebody in the comments is saying like the sound's off. Like the sound isn't turned on.
That's hilarious. Oh, good old RG. He's a trip, man.
But
God bless
those
him,
are
though.
some
I mean,
powerful quotes. Like he appears to be like a real character in this, and that's like the crazy thing about this entire documentary, I think, is how real it all is. This is a story that's continuing to play out, and I don't know that in life I've come across too many documentaries that were telling a story that was still active, right? If we look back on like the crypto documentaries that exist, I mean, I guess you could say Coin, the documentary about Coinbase, which was like like a shilly puff piece. I watched it 3 times because it was so bad. I had to like enjoy it. And but I mean, that's an example of a documentary that really didn't mean anything. And you could say, yeah, like Brian Armstrong's journey is still going on, but definitely the Quadriga CX dude that got a documentary made about him, like that story is not still going on. There were some Bitcoin documentaries you could say that they were pretty good, and some of those stories continue, but you don't have a community of 100 streamers in Bitcoin that don't take advertisements. It doesn't exist anywhere else in crypto.
You know, I think my favorite thing.
Go ahead.
I think my favorite thing about RG3 is like, I think if you're an outsider and you look at in one stream, like it's easy to just be like, this got to be an act. Like this guy's crazy.
Right.
Meeting RG3 in real life, that dude is even crazier than you could possibly imagine, like in a good way. He truly believes everything. That, like he is very genuine.
Yeah.
Everything that comes out of his mouth is, you know, what he believes.
Yeah, that dude is passion squared. You know what I mean? He is so like just devout in his passion and his drive to like, you know, share this with the world. Because I mean, it's like, and I think that's kind of part. I think he's a good example of kind of like the core of the cultishness or the community of Hex, in that, you know, at its base, it's like, yeah, we want the world to be a better place. Yeah, we want a different system that is more fair and is less manipulated by the powers that be. And you know, you change the money, you change the world, you know. And it's like it's a cool bumper sticker, but like how many people are really putting their money where their mouth is, or putting their time where their mouth is? It's like, I mean, I think, you know, everybody on the stream and so many others in the community
staking,
you know, it's like, or, you know, or Alex, all the things that he's building and working on, you know, just tirelessly, and, you know, and Crispy with, you know, his with the hexfire.io, and, you know, Maddie, your projects, and, you know, me contributing in whatever way I can, whether it's levity or maybe a little bit of insight, or, you know, helping with the film to be made. You know, it's, you know, there's so many people are contributing in their own ways. And I mean, that's the thing I say to people that, you know, are get discouraged, or, you know, let the fudsters or the trolls get to them. It's like, it's kind of like the old Mr. Rogers thing. It's like, look for the helpers, you know. It's like, what can you do to like add value, right? And it's like, you know, that's the thing I think to focus on if you're less externally focused, and kind of turn back on yourself and like, what could I be doing better, doing more of, whether it's educating or onboarding or, you know, adding some levity, or you know, whatever your strong points are. It's like, you know, do those things, and it's like, and then you're adding value to something that could potentially really be the beginning of a change of how people consider finance in the future. You know, the power of Hex. There it is.
Have you guys seen this book, The Power of Hex?
I saw a Crypty Girl post.
Freddie Quotes mailed it to me. I just took a look at it yesterday at this book, and it's really cool. It's got really a lot of beautiful colors in it, and it lays things out really well. But I was just gonna say, on the first page, it has a shout out to like everybody who's here on the stream right now, like myself,
Oh, nice.
Alex, the highest of stakes, and ChrispyMan, just shouting out members of the community and saying that we all contributed. And so it's cool. It reminded me when you were giving everybody props here.
Yep.
You can buy it on Amazon. Yeah, and thanks to Freddie.
Is that the like, are they Norwegian or something? Those guys that did that.
This one is by Johannes Milton and Falk Sable, I think.
Yeah, that's the
That's
one.
how you pronounce it. But
cool.
Great duo there. And yeah, what else was I gonna say? I forgot. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say shout out to Brian Magruder who gave me this hat, and I've got at least 50. I think at least 50 or 75 to give away at the PLS Austin conference. So get your ticket now at plsaustin.com. And also Hex Toys sent me some pins. So shout out to them. Appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah, size awesome.
Casey's wondering if somebody got hacked today because there was $9 million in penalties.
9 million hex.
Hope not.
Yeah, I think 9 million hex and penalties. Yeah. I've been watching a couple of people ping me on the gram, but yeah, like quite a few like minus 100% ROI.
Jesus.
PESs.
Yikes.
So
Hit the like and subscribe button if you're tuning in here and learning something and appreciating our reactions to the video here. Yeah, I hope nobody got hacked. That'd suck.
Yeah, that's bad.
I think there's one or two more clips. I think there's one more clip here.
Cool.
First day of class, I don't know what crypto is. What do you tell me?
It's money that you can literally create. Now, what some people don't understand is that the Fed also has this power. The Fed literally prints dollars.
Sure.
So central banks have this power, but in the world of crypto, anyone has this power.
So, okay, money with no physical presence.
Yes.
Second red flag.
All cryptocurrency is it's an Excel spreadsheet on the internet where you need your password to spend your money.
What if I told you Bitcoin is code? Do you trust people or do you trust code?
I don't know. I'm gonna say it's compelling. That's what you keep saying.
Yes. People, the right people who are honest and true and do a good job, I'm gonna put my money with them, but people are fallible. People can be corrupted. People can make bad decisions.
There you go.
True statements.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thought that last clip was particularly compelling, you know, just because it's trying to pit this idea of which one should you trust more, code or people. And I think like a lot of people have had experiences who are not technical, who like think that code works perfectly every time. And it's not like a miracle that we can even load a web page. But it is a miracle that we can even load a web page. And and so it's like, yeah, it's particularly compelling to me that like there are so many people in the cryptocurrency space who are scammers, people who create pump and dumps, people who, you know, create meme tokens and then rug the liquidity immediately and that sort of thing. I mean, that happens every day. People getting hacked happens every day. But the code that's in Hex, you know, with its truth engine, with its ability to allow people to send money to their future selves, I think is really compelling. And Richard himself is also a very interesting character.
Yeah, indeed. It's like that's one of the things I think the movie does really well, and Alex could probably speak to this, is that, you got to realize that we're kind of a captive audience. Like, we're in the crypto bubble. We know the jargon. Some of us obviously speak better to it than others. It's like, I'm amongst three of the galaxy brains in the community. So I do my best, but it's like, for somebody that's not that's a no coiner, it's like, I probably sound like I'm speaking Chinese, right? Like when I'm 100%. Trying to explain some of this stuff and like with the jargon and whatever. I think they do a really good job of making this palatable to no coiners and palatable and within reach of understanding. So I was really thankful that they were able to do that, and keep it entertaining, because it's like that can get boring really fast if it just feels like a classroom of crypto jargon. So yeah, it's like that I found to be really refreshing, as far as, the broadness, because it's like, it's like shooting fish in a barrel if you're talking to crypto people. And if you've ever tried to onboard someone that's already even loosely familiar with crypto, 9 times out of 10, they want to tell you about their crypto that they think's the best one ever. It's like, I literally had a guy telling me about it was a local car lot that had their own crypto, and it was going to be the next great thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? But it's like, no coiners are really kind of,
dude. I heard one the other day. Somebody said they could put silver on the blockchain, and I was like, whoa. But I know that I've got breaking news. The theaters in Austin, Texas are all sold out for the highest of stakes. So that's the first theater we know of that's completely sold out. And
nice.
So I'll be excited to see everybody there. As I said in the beginning of the episode, we'll do interviews at the very front, and the camera will be faced away from the crowd so people can have their privacy, but you can also hop on stream if you want. So that'll be really cool. Get your ticket at plsaustin.com. And then while we have Alex here, I do want to pry and pick his brain and find out what he's got cooking, because it sounds like he's been busy.
I've been too busy, man. But I think I've reached out to enough people and got enough consensus I can talk a little bit about it. At least one thing. I want to create some type of nonprofit organization for the advancement and proliferation of pulse chain technologies.
Whoa! Breaking news.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of complexity involved with it, and it needs a lot of cooperation for the community and people building on pulse chain. But I think there are things we could use in the community that have costs, but will generate no revenue, right? No one's going to create them directly. No one's going to say, hey, I'm going to go spend all this money on this thing that will make me nothing. It will only cost me money. No one realistically wants to do that. And I think if we can have some kind of nonprofit organization do those things and provide those services, that helps us, not only in the fact that we have services, but I think it also helps the legitimacy. So it's something I'm researching, something I'm in talks with lots of people about. It needs a lot of careful thought and preparation to make sure things go the way they should go. But it's one of the things I'm working on.
That's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Sounds like a foundation or a not-for-profit that would, like you said, take care of things that are not profitable or that otherwise wouldn't get done. Do you have an example of something that would fall into that category?
Sure. So I think there may be, for example, protocols that we like on Ethereum that would come to Pulse Chain if they got a grant to do it. And they probably won't make any money doing it, so they don't want to do it natively themselves. But I'm not going to name names there because I know some people are actually talking to those people right now. So, but those kinds of things exist.
Cool.
These conventions and meetups we do, a lot of times those things are run by nonprofits in other spaces. And I think if a nonprofit can potentially help fund those things, that's good. I think there's outreach and education and marketing things that can be done, in a more structured fashion. Like we've done things in the past kind of haphazardly, where someone says, "Hey, got this great idea, everyone, let's all raise a bunch of money," and that it doesn't really pan out the way we hope that it will pan out. I think having a little bit of structure to it might help prevent those things and be more effective in the long run.
Cool. Yeah, there's lots of human resources in this community, aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. And if we can eliminate the need to generate revenue, legally, and have all the paperwork done, because the paperwork to do this stuff is like it's hundreds of pages, and they can still tell you no. So there's a lot of complexity going on, but I think this is something that
it's a worthy endeavor. Yeah.
So when you're talking about this, are you thinking nonprofit? Were you thinking foundation with a nonprofit?
It's going to have a couple layers. So I think it's important that it has kind of a small group of, what should I call it, executors, people who actually do the things. I think it should have a board, should effectively have two boards of members, and those members will be one side of that being people building on Pulse Chain and providing services, the other side of it being community leaders. So I think that's like an important structure, and it needs well thought out on how all that integrates together. As far as like actually becoming a nonprofit, there's a couple options. It may be the case that maybe it has to start out for profit for a year or two before you can actually get the approval. Because like one of the things people don't necessarily know about nonprofits, you can't just create one. You can't just be like, okay, I'm a nonprofit. You have to like go to the IRS, and you have to like demonstrate how exactly, when, and why you're going to do the things that you're going to do. And unless someone's going to like throw you like, hey, here's $10 million, figure this out, you're probably not going to know that stuff ahead of time. So you might end up having the tax burden for a short period of time while you learn how these things are going to ultimately play out. But I think ultimately, as a nonprofit, you have two main options, and it's a 501c6 or a 501c3. There's not a huge difference between the two. The C6 is easier to get. The C6 limits the kinds of donations you can take, but the flip side of that is it can politically lobby. The C3 can't politically lobby, but can take any donation for any reason, and still be tax deductible for whoever's doing it. So, there's just some things
for
to
president. RH for president.
If we do a C6, we could do it.
There you go.
Alex for vice president.
That sounds, yeah, right. Totally. I would vote for that ticket. But I think that speaks directly to something I just heard Richard in an old clip say the other day. It's like he didn't seem too interested on new things being built on Pulse Chain because his focus was all of these things that were getting copied and brought over. So even with the things that he's kind of been testing out with farming and whatever, he's trying that already, right? He's trying to incentivize these other communities to come over and support their PRC equivalent. And so this is great. I love this idea. I think that could be huge because there's so many tokens that just became untenable to operate and do what they had been doing over on Ethereum because of the gas fees, and then those communities probably withered, and the developers probably just hung it up and said screw it and whatever. And I think new life could be breathed into a lot of those things with something like you're talking about. So that's fantastic, man. It's like good for you, and I'm eager to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I hope it plays out well. Right now it's still heavily in planning phases, but right now it's mostly talking to people and figuring out what's it going to cost and how much paperwork do we have to do, because no matter what, it's going to be a lot.
Do you see a bright future for Pulse Chain, given that you're considering making a organization to improve it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think Pulse Chain needs this. I just think it makes it better. I think we're able to, like with something like this, we could have boosts at community-run boosts of volunteers at East Denver and actually have some legitimacy there. Talk about a lot of the things what we believe, and and all of that be able to happen in a way where nobody has to worry about making money.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well,
awesome. Love it.
I like that aim. I like that aim.
Yeah.
That's hard to achieve, but I like that aim. But you know, I think it comes down to the mission of the foundation of the nonprofit, right? And I haven't set one up before, but I've been involved with 2 or 3, and enough to to be on the high end to be concerned with, hey, what's the tax exempt situation? What kind of filings need to be done? Hey, oh, by the way, because you're part of it, you're liable. So what kind of liability insurance do you have? All that kind of junk. But yeah, I like the idea, and keeping it clean too. In that people, it gets back again to that charter, right? Like, what's the charter statement? What is your mission? Because it just needs to be clear. It's not a, hey guys, we're here to fix everybody and everything. It's, hey guys, we're here to assist in certain areas as deemed appropriate by the board of directors and the members, right? And that type of structure. It's a really good idea. So Ben from he was doing some data stuff online. He was on with us, Maddie. I think his first name's Benjamin.
Is it Ben Dubard?
No, he was doing
Benjamin Sierra or something.
Yeah, Benjamin Sierra. He had kicked off a thought a few weeks ago, very similar, about doing a DAO. And this is like volunteerism is like herding cats, man. Right? If you're going to pay people, then they'll show up, right? But I mean, otherwise, it's kind of like, hey, do the 4 of us even show up, to have the conversation? But I do think we have such a sound community that you can get the people together. We could get the people together to support that.
The events that I've thrown, people have flocked to volunteer, and it's that's, I think, a real powerful thing about having a community of people like you guys said, who are time locked for so long and in it to win it together. Very cool. So Alex, from a technical point of view, I mean, this is Game Theory Gang. How do you see Pulse Chain's performance so far compared to Ethereum? Like, how are we doing?
I think very well. I mean, let me put it this way. I think a lot of people had bad expectations of Pulse Chain when it was going to launch. I think a lot of people thought immediate moon, there's always those people exist. I'm impressed with how resilient Pulse Chain has been in price, because the people who sacrificed didn't have to experience the bear.
Yeah.
You basically came out of the bear unscathed. If you threw 100% of all of your money at sacrifice and then came out the other side, like liquidity aside, you basically didn't experience the bear. And there have been some high-profile sellers, but it's been relatively calm. It hasn't been extremely crazy. I think the HEX versus EHEX debate was stupid. I do.
Is stupid.
It should be over by now.
There was a debate about that.
It'll never be over. It's going to continue, man.
Yeah. But it's a lack of understanding is really all it is. And it all circles back to my Entropy talk. Like, you guys should all go find the PBS FaceTime video on Entropy. It'll make a lot of sense. But if people
what would
are
you
moving
say to
points
those
back
people?
and forth, stop.
What would you say to those people who are arguing about EHEX and PHEX?
Stop frantically moving your coins back and forth.
Yeah, right.
You're just losing.
Okay.
Like, just decide what you're gonna do and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Just
tongue in
nervous
cheek
Nelly
comment is to the guy in chat who's talking about how he emergency instaked everything on EX. Listen, I would like to joke and say, you know what, you guys, everybody go emergency intake, but I don't really want you to do that, because I think that would get you wrecked. But I have seen no evidence of capitulation of miners. Miners have not capitulated, and so that means the people that are on those stakes are still in.
Hell yeah.
Well, and you got to figure too, it's like people that sacrificed, especially at the upper levels, it's like at 3 zeros and a 1, they're at a 2x or more currently, like where the price is. So for us to not go down to those levels or even attempt it, I think is incredibly bullish. So the strong hands are sitting tight on those on that 2x that they've got, or if they're selling, they're doing it very diplomatically into the little pumps, and or if they are selling at all, then they're snapping up the dips to defend that price. So I think all that's really, really bullish longer term. And I'll say it. It's like I think we've bottomed. So we'll see where we go from here. But it's like I think all of it's gonna do well. And the people trying to pick winners out of the 5 Richard Hart coins are just they're just trying to have something to flex about, I think. And it's like if you've got some of each, I think you're doing great. And trying to flex on others because you pick this one over that one, and this chart looks better than that one at the moment is really myopic. And you're not really adding any value with that kind of nervous Nelly energy of encouraging people to bounce their shit around, because more often than not they end up wrecked.
Well, hate
go
to keep
ahead.
bringing it up, but Entropy, man, like you have a guy, he's got his coins and he sells for something else. Well, a little bit of those coins go to fees, and maybe he takes half that bag and he goes to another coin, and then pretty soon he's just split what he had a bunch of into like a bunch of other little things, and it diversifies the system, which is great for the people who don't do it later on, because at that point it's then much easier for it to pump. But it's like you just like super wrecked yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an old school traditional finance mentality of like diversification being better. It's like all you've done is diminish your opportunity. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, intentional diversification is fine. It's when you're constantly chasing, which is the behavior that we're seeing a lot of. And when you're constantly doing this flip flop back and forth, chasing whatever chart's looking better because it's like a new world and everything's exciting, it becomes unintentional very quick.
Yep. Well, I saw it, like I used to play blackjack for a living, and it's like I saw that so much with guys that would be really, really diligent, and they would stick to their plan, and they would be building up a really nice bankroll, and then they would have one bad session, and they would throw the rules out the window or just be irrational, and they would blow, months of gains in a day, and it's like, it's that same kind of thing, especially in crypto. It's so volatile, and it's like if you choose wrong, it's like maybe you're feeling yourself a little bit because it's like, you sold your EHEX at the right time and bought PHEX with it instead. And then, but by the time like you make that round trip to chase ink and then, Pulse or Pulse X or whatever, then more often than not, you end up coming out, with less economic energy than you just would have been if you just sat tight.
Yeah, most of the people that I've talked to about it that are pretty adamant on things, they're pointing to the high gains, of course, on Pulse, right? But the facts are, when I look at the facts, right, and I price both EHEX and HEX and Pulse, HEX is doing great at 200 and something plus, right? And I like that because yes, I did ratio trade and I swapped for a whole bunch at 100, right? So I like that. On my EHEX though, it hasn't been going down. It's really weird, right? The ratio in terms of Pulse just sits in this little range. It's almost like it's tied pretty close to Pulse. And I don't know how that's going to work out long term, but that's what it looks like to me. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I could have swapped for 85 for one. Now I can swap for 85 to one. It's not 40 to one, it's not 100 to one. So it's just kind of like hanging out. So I think we got to give this some time, see what people really do, what they vote with their feet, right? Do we see, something like a Bitcoin Cash? Do we see something like the other type of forks? Don't know. This is like brand new, right? In that, they both still have utility. They both still pay, and they can cost correct, right, over time, based on the miner. So we'll have to see.
Hey, Crispy, something I saw that you put up on Twitter that I think just did not get nearly enough attention. I think it was like you said how many TShares you could get for $1,000 on HEX on Pulse versus EHEX, and was it like a 3 to 1 or something?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
it was like
crazy
3 times.
now.
You could get 3 times as many T-shares per dollar, or 3.5 times or something per dollar than you could on HEX on Pulse. So, I mean, I think that's telling too, as far as people that are more long-term mindset, you know, with a more long-term mindset, you know, should be looking at those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, right now for $1,000, right, you get 1.48. This is base, so I mean, you get if you're going out longer, so meaning you did it for one day. So for $1,000, you get 1.5 T-shares, right? But on you know, if you're sitting on the Ethereum chain, now this doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna work out any better for you money wise at the moment, right? It might be over time, but on the Ethereum chain, you get almost 3.9 now, and so you're getting a shit ton more HEX in terms of yield, but at a currently lower price, right? And so then the question is over time, how does that affect other stuff that happens? You know, like how many people buy T-shares, and you know, what's our count, and you know, how much of this stuff's getting minted? Because if it gets minted, our payout goes up. Blah 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 blah. I mean, go on and on for this, just to kind of model that out. So yeah, there's a lot of possible futures, right? You know, some of them not so happy for EHEX, and some of them really happy for EHEX, right? But you know, don't know yet.
How do you guys see like the BankX FUD?
It's a problem. I haven't seen what he's actually done. He staked some of it, didn't he? Or was it all
some of it?
I think so. Yeah, they're doing like short rolling stakes, is what I heard.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's obviously going to FUD a lot of people out, right? Like, you know, it's hard not to look at that as like, okay, well, now you have this giant knife over your head, just
right,
sort of Damocles ready to come down, right? It's hard not to look at it like that. But based on like the actions so far, I don't know. I guess worst possible situation is rolling stakes and sells interest forever, right? Like, or sells yield forever.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Like that's the worst option. And that's not even that bad. Like,
no,
already got a bunch of people doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's been the name of the game for the last year. So if that's the worst of it, like it's a damper, but it's not the end of the world. The other side of it is like they get frustrated and insta dump it, in which case a lot of people come and buy. So I think like price performance wise, it probably dampens things for a while to the people who care about it. And they'll just go choose to use PulseHex. Like that's the beauty of it. Like you can just go use it. It doesn't mean EHEX is dead. Like trust me, if 800 million hex was dumped tomorrow, there will be buyers. 100% will be buyers.
And thank God that there are limit orders over there at least.
Yeah, you know.
Right.
So
and then did they get a copy?
But they did not.
Did they get a copy on Pulse Chain? They did not.
No.
Okay. So it's just on that side. The thing I think, just from human psychology perspective, if they're dabbling with shorter term stakes, I don't know if it's a group of guys or if it's one guy or what it is, but especially if it's a group, I think it increases the odds that someone's going to look at that yield and start paying attention to like what's possible. And, you know, I could see them doing a staking ladder, or at least throwing a chunk of it out for a longer time frame just because of the potential for it. I mean, it seems to be the smarter move than holding all that liquid, in my opinion. But yeah, it's like I'm not too concerned about it. I think it's something that'll wash itself out over time. And as more people come into the system, it'll become even less of an issue.
Yeah, cool. I think we're going to have to see. I think you know, I don't know, maybe there's more than two options or two things happen. I think on the one hand, we're going to watch the system, see what it does. And if we see a bunch of capitulation and people emerge the end stake because you know, it's the end is coming, I'd be looking for 10, 20% of the T-shares to disappear, right? You get 10, 20% of the T-shares to go away, you know, payouts go up accordingly, APY goes up accordingly, and all of a sudden it looks really attractive to me to get double or 1.5 the amount of yield on that side than on the other. The other case is so many of us are such strong believers, and maybe they haven't gotten shook out yet, or maybe they never will. This may just never change, just like kind of drag on for the next 2, 3 years, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
With the bonded liquidity and just slowly, paying out the payout, and that's it. I think it's important to kind of do it by itself, like evaluate. Yeah, of course you got to evaluate HEX in conjunction with Pulse and EHEX in conjunction with Pulse and HEX. You just can't get away from that. But on the merits of whether it's something you want to go in or not, it's its own token now.
One way that I think about it is also in terms of offline liquidity. Like you've got the same holders in EHEX and PHEX. It's the same set of users. Same with Pulse and PulseX. There's a huge overlap, more than there is in any other coins, probably. I mean, that we're talking, that I'm paying attention to now. But so I think that really bonds the liquidity in a similar way. Like just people having those good experiences with those coins to where the system can balance itself no matter what, whether there's endless FUD. We've kind of already had that. And yeah, if somebody dumped all the coins, people would buy them up. And there are those people who are believing so much that like Bank X is gonna crash the price. Maybe they cashed out. Like, I'm not one of these people, but like there probably are people we saw in the bear market that like had cashed out dollars at the top or at the bottom or wherever they cashed out dollars, and they're just waiting for the price that they're looking for, or they're waiting for the next opportunity. You hate those sellers, right? Like on the way down, but then you think about it and it's like some of those people are the ones who are going to support the price and make it so that the bottom is not farther down, if that makes any sense. So
No, it does, because I think right now there's a strong core of people that are involved in all these assets, right? But that'll diffuse a little bit over time.
Yeah, it also doesn't matter what like the price is. If I can get 10 TShares on the Ethereum side for every PHEX stake I've got coming out, that's gonna be more and more enticing, and it's gonna I'm gonna balance out the ratio myself if I have to.
Right.
I'm gonna do it myself. Damn it.
That's
right.
I don't have that much.
I think the premium will kind of stabilize, and it might even go back and forth. You don't know. It's like, I think it's really going to be interesting to see, like, if we get the viral effect that I'm hoping for with the movie, and there's all of these no coiners that come into the system, whether we like it or not, for a no coiner, it is easier to get in on the Ethereum side. Now, once they get in and they dig around a little bit, maybe they're going to be more enticed to go on over to the Pulse chain side, which would be great too. So I'm really curious to see what that gap does over the coming months. They said on Twitter that the next phase of this whole thing is a streaming platform, global. So if that happens, and they said this year, so it's like if that is indeed the way that this plays out, and we have global attention on this.
Let's go.
It'd be really, really, really interesting to me to see if they even flip, to where they could maybe come back to parity, and EHEX is kind of in the lead for a while, and maybe it shifts around. Whatever the case,
that'd be cool.
Whether one's here and one's there, or they're equal, or one's here and one's there, they're all going to go together. You know what I mean? I think as one HEX goes, so goes the other. Generally speaking, so. The little pleb games, I call them, in between of trying to pick the winner is just that, So it's like long term, I think they're all going in the same direction, which is up and to the right. And, and that's where the TShares come into play for a longer term mindset. If you're getting more TShares per dollar for new money coming in, it makes sense to go after that better yield per dollar invested over on the east side at this point, in my opinion. Not financial advice, of course. Everybody needs to do what they feel best about doing. But yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm really glad that Alex was able to come on with us. It's like I didn't want to fanboy all over him at the beginning, and I'll do my best not to do so now. But he's always been tremendously kind to me. We've had some short DM conversations over the years, and I was always just like, wow, he answered me. It's like, not only did he answer me, it was like a real answer. And honestly, it reminded me of RH. It's like, when I first messaged him on Twitter and he actually replied with like an earnest reply, I'm like, he's a good dude, So Alex, I really appreciate you and all you do in the community. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for your ideas. And then one thing I did want to throw out there is like the first thing I heard Richard talk about when I first saw him was the CFD token, which I thought was a genius idea. It's like, I really loved it. And then, it seems like over time he kind of realized that it wasn't tenable as far as, being a financially viable token idea. And that's where maybe he turned away from it and went to like the Bitcoin HEX idea and then ultimately HEX. But I don't know if you've taken any time to look at that, because I always thought, man, if someone could pick up that idea and like make it viable, it's like, I really think that still has value, just as far as like, in the scientific community, like what that could, how the benefits of that, what that could be.
Can you guys explain for us people who are not so old, like in the OGs, for us new OGs, can you explain what you're talking about?
You mean that there used to not be computers and now we have computers? What level of explanation?
Not that far back.
Like it was
my
CFD token or something?
My understanding of his idea, it was the computational fluid dynamics token, and the idea is that the hash rate or like the computational power of that blockchain would be utilized to share scientific information around the world. Is a very shitty description of what it would do. Alex, if he's familiar with it, I'm sure could articulate it way better than I could.
I think it's like the complication of it was that, number one, computational fluid dynamics are really hard, right? That's the first piece of it. You need a lot of computing power just, to do that kind of calculation. And but like the core idea of it was you would have this token that like, scientific community researchers, companies, whatever, would like buy and use within the network, which would allow you to do computational fluid dynamics trivially, because everyone who's mining with like their GPUs would be processing that for you. Even implementing that would be insanely difficult. But assuming you did, I actually don't think it would work, because I think academics, money doesn't exist to them. I think if you're MIT, you get a grant from the government and you build a supercomputer that's greater. Because like the bigger problem you have is latency, right? Like, do I build a data center that's like 16 stories high with the latest technology in the world that the government basically paid for me, where everything happens very quickly? Or do I want a network of RTX 3060s on, people's children's gaming PCs with 100 milliseconds of latency between each one? Like what network do I want to use? Not only that, but then I have to pay for the one that runs on gaming PCs, or the government will give me the other one for free.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that the idea is super awesome. I think, but it would be dependent purely on use. Like, it has value if scientific community wants to use it. And we've even seen, like, there's been lots of things like SETI at home, which was like doing like space research, like that got canned. They're still folding at home, but it's not really what it used to be anymore. A lot of those things are dying out because you can just build your own government data center very quickly with grant money.
Cool.
Well put.
Well,
yeah, that makes sense.
We'll keep that on
Maddie,
our bucket list.
Yeah, right. I was just curious of his input, because it's like I have tremendous respect for Alex's intellect, and so that was a great way to describe why Richard probably turned away from it, even though it's a good idea. It's like, is it viable? Right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a great idea for hobbyists. Like, fantastic for hobbyists.
Yeah.
It's just, are hobbyists going to pay for it? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
True.
Maddie,
hey,
did you
jump.
want to play the trailer, like the actual trailer?
No.
Before we go, or do you think we've already moved beyond the highest?
Yeah, we've played it out, and I want to drive traffic to the actual thing. So everybody should be watching that, even though it's got a super negative spin on it. Check it out. Share it with the haters, then slowly reel them in with the 15 minutes of footage that's not as bad, and then hopefully the documentary itself, I think people have said it's pretty fair and balanced, so that'll be that'll be the final bait for the haters.
There you go. Well, whatever gets them through the door, but so
Yeah.
you were saying it's thehighestofstakes.com screenings / screenings is, yep.
Is
So
it? I think it's.
thehighestofstakes.com.
Is it? I think isn't it?
It's the
just highest of stakes, or is it the?
No, it's the
It is
highest of stakes. I'll drop it in the chat. Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely go there. Check your local showing times. See if there's tickets still available. With Maddie's thing, which is awesome, it's like basically if you get a ticket to the conference, then you're going to get a ticket to go to the movie for free, included in your purchase price of the conference ticket, which is stupid cheap. I know that he's upside down and backward on this thing, but Maddie's taking one for the team again. I decided just before the stream that I'm going to bite the bullet, and hopefully my crippled spine doesn't crumble. But I'm actually going to go from Miami to Austin for one night on Friday night. So I'll be in Austin with Maddie and David Feeder and the rest of the gang, and checking things out with you guys. I've got a couple gifts to give away myself when I'm there, so if you see me, say hey.
Awesome.
And then I'll be flying back to the Ohio showing with Grant Peel, the other director from Highest of Stakes, to help co-host and be a premiere host there for that showing, and have my parents sit down and see my name in lights, right? See my Tobiwan Hexobi,
well done.
The producer credits. So so that'll be
Shout out
exciting.
to you.
It'll be fun to experience for the whole family. I'm super excited and super happy that we've got this good news finally, that everybody was hungry for something. And maybe this is the spark that starts the fire. We always talked about Pulse Chain being the thing that leads the bull run. So maybe this is that little ember.
Let's do it.
that gets the fuse going, right?
I mean, not right now. The environment's pretty good, right? Like BTC or GBTC discount closing, Fed kind of pausing rates a little bit. Like may not be the end of the bear, but it's getting there. So
yeah,
could be good timing.
Absolutely. Well, does everybody want to go around the room and plug what you're doing and where to find you, that sort of thing, as we wrap up here? Alex?
Yeah,
sure. We'll say
we can do that. Yeah.
I'm doing too much.
I'd say
if you want to see what I'm
Alex
doing,
is doing it all.
Just Twitter. Twitter's the big one. Synergy. You'll see me there. That's the easiest one.
I'm following you over there. Hey, I want to jump on what Toby said before. Hey, thanks, Alex, for everything. I know that we've traded messages back and forth, and for everybody who doesn't know, I couldn't possibly get the information because I'm not technical enough for Hedron and Icosa without some help. So thank you, Alex, because otherwise I couldn't go get that great information. And of course, I'm out on Twitter, Hexfire.io, and YouTube, Hexfire.io, or you can go over to the site hexfire.io.
Cool. Well, I'm here by the grace of Maddie on Tuesday evenings on Game Theory Gang. Happy to be a part of it. And then primarily I'm on Twitter, daily TA updates, Toby1 TA time, to kind of help you have more informed DCA. And that's at Toby1_Hexobi. And I'm a producer of the new movie that's coming out. So be sure to get your tickets, and hopefully you can join us in Austin at the Pulse Conference.
To the moon. Let's go.
Timepays.me is live. It's been up for a week. You can send money to your future self, whether it's Pulse or PulseX or any ERC or PRC20. You can also undo a hack by setting up your second seed phrase. So check that out at timepays.me. And until next time, everybody, stake wisely, get your highest of stakes videos or your tickets, and peace out.
Stay crispy, Maddie. I'll see ya.